Good evening. This is Emma Toops, and today is day 28 in the video series. In part 3 of effective communication, I'm going to discuss barriers to understanding and a variety of ways that a message might become misinterpreted. As a reminder, active listening is a crucial component of effective communication. However, even if someone is actively listening, there's still plenty of opportunity for a message to become misunderstood. A simple example of this, I invite you to recall the telephone game that you may have played when you were a child. In this game, a message was passed from one person to the next in a line until the last person receives it and then reveals their understanding of the message to the group. Inevitably, that message at the end is usually nothing like what it was at the beginning. So somehow, through the process, the message changed. Imagine the communication process being the speaker on one side, and they have the words that they're using, the expressions, the body language, and the tone of their voice in delivering the message. Now, on the other side of that communication is the receiver of the message. But what they interpret of that message, they arrive to because of a variety of filters that are unique to themselves. Now, these filters could be their experience, their worldview, their education, any bias or prejudice they may have, any stereotypes. They might be have a filter of a distraction or an assumption. So all of these various filters may affect what they ultimately interpret in the message that they receive. Now, the telephone game is typically played by children. But the point is, there's this concept of mistakenly assigning meaning to what was heard because of filters. Now, let's take a closer look at some of these filters and how they can affect the interpretation of a message. Experience, worldview, and education, these all relate to a person's past knowledge and their values and possibly their beliefs. And a lot of their decisions may be based on these ideas. Assigning meaning to new information usually involves recalling their memories or past knowledge, or they have to acknowledge that this information is new and that they're going to be adding it to their database. If two speakers that don't have a lot in common are in a conversation, their understanding or their experience of the words being exchanged may be different enough to where they're assigning different meanings to what's being said. Additional things to consider is there may be a difference between the speakers, such as their age, their gender. Maybe they have different religious or ethnic backgrounds. They may speak a different language, or they have varying levels of understanding to the topics being discussed. So all of these things are additional filters for how they may interpret the words being exchanged. So there may be a distraction or a distortion of whatever the message would be intended to be and what it actually ends up being understood as. So the words exchanged in a conversation, the meaning assigned to them is by the participants in the conversation. And because it's an ongoing process, processing of that information needs to be checked periodically so that there's a common understanding of what has been already exchanged. See, this doesn't happen in the telephone game, which is why at the beginning, it's one message, and at the end, it's something completely different. This periodic check of common understanding is not being done in that game. In effective communication, along with active listening, you also have to have curiosity and empathy to recognize that there may be these filters that are different between the participants in the conversation that's going to affect the meaning of the words being heard. So I've said it before, effective communication is a complicated process. There's a lot that you have to be paying attention to, and it needs to be intentional. It's not just active listening. What I've introduced today is that there is a variety of ways for the meaning to be interpreted, and it needs to be continuously checked. Tomorrow, I will introduce one additional thing to consider as part 4 of effective communication, and that is emotions and sound. So that's all I have for today. So I'll talk to you next time.